大家好，我是 Martin, and this is Short Stories, brought to you by the Taichung Keda Language Center. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your summer. I think you remember last semester we talked a lot about short stories from classic mythology and fairy tales and even some literature. Well, this semester we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about classic stories, but we're also going to talk about the authors that wrote them and give you a kind of short biography of them. We're also going to talk about human interest stories, about inspiring individuals who overcome obstacles. And we may even throw in a few fun stories about culture and festivals, things like that. Well, let me remind you, though, that our focus is still on improving your vocabulary and improving your listening comprehension skills. So even though the stories are a little bit different, our focus is the same. Well, enough of that. Now let me introduce today's short story. The very first short story of this semester. How many of you have heard of Peter Rabbit? Probably most of you. Now, how many of you know about Beatrix Potter? Maybe the few of you that actually saw the Renee Zellweger movie. Remember that one? Mrs. Potter? No? No? You don't watch Renee Zellweger movies? Okay. Anyway, let me introduce first the vocabulary, and then I will start by introducing today's story. Let's start with vocabulary. Hole. Hole. Their departure will leave a gaping hole in Grand Prix racing. Be located. Be located. Tom's new house is located on the side of a cliff. That sounds rather dangerous. Root. Root. And take root. Take root. Democracy is taking root in that country. Naughty. Naughty. The naughty boy is always in one kind of trouble or another. I think I know what they're talking about. Squeeze. Squeeze. The dog squeezed through the small hole in the wall. All of a sudden. All of a sudden. All of a sudden, the lights in the room went out. Run into something. Run into something. If you were gliding through a forest, you would probably not want to run into any trees. Net. Net. Slip through the net. The cunning robber slipped through the net with ease. Okay, that's enough of vocabulary. Now we'll do the story. Peter Rabbit lives with his mother, Mrs. Josephine Rabbit, and his 3 sisters, Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. Their home is a comfortable rabbit hole which has a kitchen and lots of furniture. The rabbit hole is located under the root of a huge tree. It is also a shop where his mother sells many different items. One morning, Mrs. Rabbit told the children to go outside to play. She said that they must watch out for their neighbor, Mr. McGregor, and to stay away from his vegetable garden. Mr. McGregor liked to eat rabbits. In fact, Peter's father was cooked into a meat pie after Mr. McGregor caught him in his garden. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were good bunnies and went to gather blackberries. But Peter was a very naughty bunny, and he went into the neighbor's garden. After Peter squeezed under the gate, He ate some lettuce, beans, and radishes. He ate so much that he started to feel sick, so he went to look for some parsley. Then, all of a sudden, the neighbor, Mr. McGregor, saw Peter. He ran after him, shouting, "Stop, thief!" Peter was very scared. He ran as fast as he could, but he could not find the gate. He lost his shoes somewhere in the cabbage patch. Without his shoes, he could run faster, but unfortunately, he ran into a large net. The buttons on his coat were caught in the net. He thought he was a goner, but just in the nick of time, he wiggled out of his coat and ran away. Now that Peter was far away from Mr. McGregor, he rested a moment and looked at his surroundings. He was completely lost. He asked a little mouse for directions, but the mouse's mouth was too full of food to answer. Peter walked around until he saw the gate. "Hooray!" he thought. But just then he saw something terrible between him and the gate. It was Mr. McGregor. Fortunately, Mr. McGregor was busy and it didn't see Peter. The little rabbit saw his chance and made a dash for the gate. After squeezing under the gate, he was free at last. To find out what Peter's mother thought of all of this adventure, read The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. Oh, so that's the introduction to the story of Peter Rabbit. I think everyone here knows that one. Now, let me tell you about Beatrix Potter. Beatrix Potter is the author that created the character of Peter Rabbit. When Miss Potter was a young girl, she loved to paint pictures and write stories. She also had a rabbit named Peter. Many years later, after she had grown up, a friend's young son was sick. She decided to write him a story with lots of colorful pictures to make him feel better. That story was The Tale of Peter Rabbit. A few years later, Beatrix Potter decided to publish the story in a book. It was very successful. In fact, it has now sold over 40 million copies. When The Tale of Peter Rabbit was first published in 1902, it was the first story to have animals that spoke and dressed like humans. It was so popular that Beatrix Potter decided to sell Peter Rabbit dolls and Peter Rabbit games. This was the first time merchandise featuring Peter Rabbit was sold. Today, the merchandise is just as popular as it was over 100 years ago. Many toy shops have a special department with Peter Rabbit toys, clothes, books, games, and DVDs. In England, there is even a Peter Rabbit theme park where fans of the cute and lovable bunny can experience the life of Peter Rabbit for themselves. Oh, wow. So we learned about the Peter Rabbit story and about the author, Beatrix Potter. Now I'm going to test your listening skills. Answer these 4 listening comprehension questions. Are you ready? Number 1. Why did Beatrix Potter write The Tale of Peter Rabbit? A. To entertain her young son who was sick. B. To entertain her friend's young son who was sick. C. To entertain the children at her church. D. To warn children about the dangers of eating vegetables. The answer is B. Entertain her friend's young son who was sick. It's not dangerous to eat vegetables. It's perfectly safe. Yeah, it's okay. Eat your vegetables. Question 2. How many copies of Peter Rabbit have been sold? A. 4 billion. B. 4 million. C. 14 million. D. 40 million. The answer is D, 40 million. That's a lot of books. However, the real money comes from merchandising. Ooh, that sweet, sweet merchandising money. I guess Disney wasn't the first company to come up with the idea of ruthlessly exploiting intellectual property for merchandising gain. Oh well. Number 3. What are the names of Peter's sisters? A. Dropsy, Hopsy, and Christian Bale. B. Flip Flop, Hip Hop, and Kool and the Gang. C. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. Or D. Floppy, Moppy, and Glendale. The answer is C. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. Question number 4. What happened to Peter's father? A. He was sued by Mr. McGregor. B. He was eaten by Mr. McGregor. C. He was friends with Mr. McGregor. D. He went to buy some milk and never came home. Oh, so sad. No, the answer is B. He was eaten by Mr. McGregor. Remember, Mr. McGregor likes to eat rabbits. And like most children's stories, it can't be complete until someone gets eaten. Well, that's it for today. I hope you got all 4 of the questions correct. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.